This is Ditch Diggers, Season 8, Episode 3. Matt is back, and Mur is totally prepared.
Ditch Diggers appear, and ain't no wannabes here, with some not-so-nice advice for your writing career. To be clear, no punches will be pulled, but the punch may be spiked, how they like before they get on the mic. To my left, we got the mighty Mur Lafferty, and if I piss her off, believe me, she'll come after me. And her co-host, Matt Evan Wallace, on the right. Yes, she may be half as hype as she can take him in a fight. So settle in, folks, buckle in and boot up. Time to meddle in a way to make your writer shut up. It's hard work, but the perk is that it's fun and exciting. Facebook will still be there when you're done writing. Ditch Diggers! Ditch Diggers!
Coming to you live from Matt and Mur's Manor, and it's the room that has the conveyor belt with all the candy in it that we must pack. It is Matt and Mur as the Ditch Diggers. We're back. How are you, Matt?
I'm good. So are we like Oompa Loompas? Is that the illusion?
No, we're Lucille Ball.
Oh, we're Lucille Ball. Okay, sorry. That's gotcha.
Man.
That's much folksier.
So yeah, we're supposed to be the Ditch Diggers. And
we are. We're getting to it. We're getting to it gradually here.
We're getting to it. We were going to talk about stuff and what we're working on. Matt, what are you working on?
I have many things, or many things. Inner peace, most of all. Mm-hmm. But nobody's subsidizing that. That's the problem. So I have to do all this other crap around working towards inner peace.
Right.
And I think that is the problem with capitalism. But we'll come back to that. No, many things. So I have to leave early because of not my real job. My job is writing overall, and then many things fall within that umbrella. I still cling to that weird mentality of like, well, if you do a thing from a set schedule, that's your real job, and anything on top of that is not somehow your real job. It's ridiculous. But anyway, the thing I do every day set a certain schedule, which is write video games, is consuming much of my life right now. In addition to that, I've got one middle grade novel I'm trying to finish the first draft of, and then the final Savage Rebellion novel, which I am currently in edits on at the same time. So, a lot of balls in the air for old Matt.
Yeah, seems that way.
What about you, Mur? Besides Inner Peace.
It's hard to say. I feel like I'm behind on my book, but I worked a lot this morning I'm working on an outline to get it all set. So I don't know. I really don't know how I'm doing.
Okay, you don't know how you're doing, but you know what you're working on,
well, yeah,
right?
I'm working on book 2 of the Midsolar Murders.
Well, there you go. I thought that's what we were, I'm sorry I threw you off with the Inner Peace thing, but I thought that's what we were focused on. I mean, Mur, none of us know how we're doing. I would never ask anyone that at this point. I just think it's a rude question just with the state of the world. So
fair enough.
It's better to just focus on what we're doing than how we are. Because that's just a horror show, and we just take that as read at this point. Yeah.
True.
But yeah. But again, I brought up the Inner Peace thing, so I opened the door, so it's really my fault.
So, yeah, you want to talk about Sandersons Thing, which is is it done yet?
Is it done yet? I mean, last I looked, it was like at 40 million. I have it on my...
It's like 41, I thought.
My phone here. Yeah, $41,754,153 with 185,341 backers.
How many backers?
185,341.
Damn.
If I'm reading this correctly.
Yeah.
And I believe it is. Yeah. I believe it is.
Wow. So,
you can pre-order it on BackerKit. I don't know what that means. Does that mean it's over? I'm having trouble. It should just say in big bold letters, "This is over." But anyway,
it'll usually say this has been funded.
Oh, right, yeah. I don't know. My phone is small and I have astigmatism, so I miss things sometimes.
Yeah.
Point being, the thing is, either way, it doesn't matter. So that's been going on. It was weird because like it was big news. I feel like the first week, and then it exploded so fast and rapidly. Everybody kind of stopped talking about it after that.
Yeah.
Because what else was there to say other than, oh my god, it's getting even bigger than it was when we were all freaking out about it originally. But the thing that has struck... So here's I don't want to like go into the whole... Because much smarter people have done entire threads about the Kickstarter itself than me. It's just an interesting time for this to be going on for me. What throws it in relief is, as this is going on, I feel like I'm noticing... more so than usual, like all these fiction magazines and all these writing markets announcing that they're closing down simultaneously. Like that's what I've noticed more than anything in juxtaposition to this juggernaut Kickstarter for genre fiction novels. Fireside Fiction announced that they're shuttering. Bitch Media was a big one just a few days ago or last week. I have no concept of time anymore, but I was very sorry to hear about that, as many folks were. God, there was another really good fiction scene that shut down a couple of weeks ago. Announced they were shutting down a couple of weeks ago, and I'm blanking on the name. This is why you should take notes, Mer. It's not Mermaids. Mermaids announced they were shutting down, but I think that was all part of the plan. Anyway, there are at least 3 or 4 within the last month since Sandersons Kickstarter blew up that I've seen announcements for, and really like good quality markets, hardworking people that put really good stuff into the world, and it's really sad, man. Like you're really kind of with each announcement, it took a larger chunk kind of out of my heart. There, it's really sad to see that stuff, and it's also just sad about what it represents as a whole. Both for, the market and an industry perspective, and also just a creative, cultural perspective,
True. I think you're right, and as Preemie says, it's been a little sad or weird to see small BIPOC-run venues try to raise $2,000 in 30 days on Kickstarter and failing. Preemie, if there are any links you have to share those, I can actually you should be able to put links in the chat. So if you know of any, please put them in the chat, and we'll try to remember to put them in the show notes. But I will say that Fireside was already kind of on shaky legs after their Black Voice type debacle. They had some major stumbles, and they had a lot of staffing changes, and they stepped in it a bunch of different times. But since that, they had really worked to restaff and reorganize and like not do dumb shit like that again. Yeah. And so that's necessarily true. Like every market has its own problems. I'm really talking more about like the overall kind of symptomatic thing than one particular market, right? Real quick, Cypher of Tears says, I must have missed something what happened with Fireside. A couple of years ago, I think, they were doing a black-focused issue, and Maurice Broaddus was the editor, and they'd gotten a lot of good content, and then whoever was doing the audio side got a white woman to narrate a black woman's essay, nonfiction essay. And it was not well taken at all. And I felt so bad for Maurice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they lost a lot of I think they did change some editorship after that. Yeah,
they did major restructuring after that. Yeah. And I think Brian White came back on.
Yeah.
And it was so like I said, it was, and I mean, I'm not saying it's not worth looking at how each thing is run, but like again, like going back to what Preemie said, it's this thing of you got this juggernaut over here, and the Sanderson thing is its own thing. It's the exception, not the rule. And that's as much as I really want to go into that. But then again, you got people who can't raise a couple of grand to showcase really brilliant authors and really exciting fiction, and that's really the disparity that gets me, and kind of and introduces that question of like why, you know?
Well, yeah, it is a big shame. You know, it has to do with voice. He's built a loud voice. People talk about it like he is, well, you or me, or any beginning author going to Kickstarter and saying, hey, support me. And it doesn't work that way. If you've got a huge megaphone and you take it to a new room and nobody around you has a megaphone, you start using your megaphone, everyone's going to be like, oh, wow, look at that author. They're very loud. Authors must be loud now. And it's, it's not, it doesn't change much for us. I know he he did back a lot of, literary projects, unless they were porn or clearly jokes. I think he backed every single literary project that was on Kickstarter, which, you know, looked good. It was a good move. And, you know, anybody who doesn't understand Kickstarter, that $41 million is not going into his pocket. That's got to cover a lot of work in the next year.
Yeah, that's basically. But I mean, another thing, yeah, Sanderson already basically has his own infrastructure set up to do that kind of shit. I mean, he's probably gonna have to scale wildly to meet this sort of demand. But like, this is basically starting a publishing company at this point.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's not all, you know, peach cream and sitting on a beach sipping Mai Tais. It's real work. So
if everything's terrible, what can we do?
I don't know, man. I like on the ground. Obviously, it's like you gotta spend the dollars to support these markets, you know, and I think you can bring up a bunch of different stuff with that, which is just a lot of people who are aware of this stuff and reading it don't have a lot of money right now because who the hell does? Because the world. Another thing you got to talk about is people get way too accustomed to not paying for the media and the content they consume, and I think that feeds into it. You know, it's almost. I think audiences actually find it. A lot of audiences online, they actually find it offensive when you ask them to pay for something, and it's somehow less offensive when it's phrased in the form of like donation or like a Kickstarter or a crowdfund. You know, nobody wants to buy a product anymore. They either want to like be part of a movement or feel like they're doing something altruistic. But it's somehow like if I'm part of a cause and I'm raising money to make something, or I'm donating to help this thing stay alive, then like somehow I'm not like part of the capitalist machine. But if I buy a product, then I'm just a consumer like every other asshole. I really think there's a mentality there that feeds into that. And I have no data or statistics, but that's just kind of a sense I get.
Yeah.
Being in the thick of this myself for a long time, just something I see. And I don't want to get into a cranky old man place of like, oh, you know, these kids today, they don't. But there really is a problem with people not just being trained at this point because everything's so accessible and everything is so pirated and it's so easy. They are trained to just not pay for the media they consume. You know? Yeah,
and there was there's been a lot of pointing at the fact that Sanderson is a rich white dude, and there was
absolutely.
There was a YA author who tried to do the same thing, only she phrased it like, I need money to live on while I write this book.
Yeah, I remember that.
She got so much shit. I think she had to take her Kickstarter down. She probably had to step off of the internet for a little while. I don't know if she got doxxed or something, but the gall of asking for what she was worth was just awful. And
I was appalled by that. And you know, I remember that vividly because there were other authors who were giving her shit, and that just like offended me.
The YA world is weird. It's a little scary.
Yeah, I mean, I know that. Like, why Twitter gets scapegoated a lot too. So, like, I don't want to get into that because I don't know enough about it. But yeah, in that case, there was a lot of vitriol coming from people that you would expect to sympathize with an author, going, "Hey, I want to write this thing. Yeah. I need money. I need money to live while I'm doing it. If you guys would like to read the thing, can I have the money to live so I can write it?" And other authors going, "How dare you?
Like, how dare you? Just get a day job like the rest of us who are trying to write during a day." Yeah.
Yeah, right under the covers at night by penlight, you know, until 3 a.m. if you really want to get this done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Going to chat real quick. Cypher of Tears says, everyone says pay artists their worth until people ask for their worth. Definitely, yeah. Yeah, Indie Pub works as like being part of something instead of buying. The Kids Are Asleep said that. And Urban Bohemian says the pervasive idea that creators of all kinds shouldn't be able to make a living while they make their art. Yeah, the whole suffer for your art thing is I fight against that a lot.
You have to, because it's alive and well. And what kills me about that whole attitude is people who have it and try to apply it to authors and even argue with authors about the culture or how they should be. They don't realize that's something that's been fed to them and perpetuated by the people who don't want to pay us money for the things they sell the general public. Like, this idea of this, like, you want us to be these, like, bohemian free spirits who are somehow above money and are just happy to live our dream and create art doesn't really jive with the fact that you're still being sold art by billionaires every which way you look. They just aren't paying the people who actually make it, and you're helping them do that by perpetuating that horseshit idea that you've been sold. So you're really just participating in marketing at that point. You've bought all these industries' marketing campaigns to keep writers at the bottom of the food chain. So the irony of that amuses me. Is amuse the right word? Maybe not.
No. Yeah, Preemie says, I've been told suffering builds character. See, the thing is, Preemie, it does. But you can build character without suffering, too. Yeah. Amanda Palmer's like, everyone's freaking out when the last president weaseled through, and she's like, think about the art that's going to be created in the next 4 years. I'm going to Australia. Bye. And I'm like, you're right, but you're so wrong. That's just not... You don't want to tell people that. The fact that someone's stabbing you in the eye is awesome, because think about that painting without a lot of depth perception, but still, think about that painting you're going to do afterwards. It's not... You can't... Yeah,
it's an absurd... Here's the thing, like, building character is very vague, because not all character is good. There's such a thing as building bad character.
Yeah.
And a lot of negativity can come from needless suffering, too. In fact, mostly it's needless suffering. Yeah, that whole attitude, man, is just, it's wild to me. I don't know. I think there's also, and it's sad, I feel like we barely got into this. I'm already watching the clock, and I'm gonna have to break out here in a little bit. But the other thing that really struck me about this whole thing, looking at, like, the Sanderson thing, and looking at all these markets closing and just the general state of everything that isn't that, that massive quarter of the industry, it's just like how disconnected I think a lot of us are from the reality of the market, Because, like, me personally, my social media, my kind of online communities, like the stuff that I watch, the news that I follow, even publishing-wise, like, I never hear about Brandon Sanderson's books. Like, the people I follow, the authors, and even the authors and the publishing professionals and the readers, that's not the stuff they're reading.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the two biggest, at least for Tor, Macmillan, or whoever publishes them, the two biggest ones last year were, like, Brandon Sanderson and, what's his name? The Aragon guy, Paolini.
Oh, did he come up with something new?
Yeah, like, he did something. But anyway, it was last year or the year before, but I don't know. But they were, like, they had the two biggest books of the year for that publisher by far. Like, made them record profits. I never heard a word about either of them in any of my feeds.
I didn't even know that the Aragon guy was writing again. I thought that once he stopped being the hot 17-year-old author, he that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's incredibly not the case. And they're out there moving just tens of millions of copies of books. And a lot of us, even people who are, again, like, we're industry professionals, we're doing this, it relates to us. I personally am I find myself very disconnected from that. I've talked to a lot of other people who feel the same way. It's like, I know these books are selling huge, but I never hear about them from my friends or my colleagues or my readers. And it creates this false perception of where the market in the industry is actually at for a lot of people, I think. Yeah.
And if you don't have a sense of what's actually happening, what's still happening, then you don't know, what needs to change about things, or like you don't know how the reality is actually affecting you. I don't know. It's just that was just interesting to me. It's just interesting to me that we think of genre fiction in particular, like science fiction, fantasies, and horror, and all that, as this very insular niche thing. We treat it like that a lot, and when a lot of our books are not selling, we perceive that those people just aren't buying those genres as much as they buy other genres.
Right.
But the reality is, there are these books, and again, they are the exception, not the rule. But there are these books that are doing huge numbers and connecting with readers out there. And if you're not aware of them, then you can't get into questions like, okay, well, why those books, and why are the resources being put behind those books, and where are the resources for other books that are not those books?
Yeah.
Like if you don't know. Like you have to have that information to ask the right questions. And I think a lot of times, a lot of us get disconnected from those realities.
Yeah.
And that was just a huge reminder to me with like the Sanderson thing. And when I look at all these markets that are struggling, that's what I think of. I think of like we don't understand all this stuff or really acknowledge it that much, but we need to, so we can ask like how is that happening, and what do we need to do to change the industry and the structure and the systematic aspects that like help everybody else who is not these two guys, Because it's not just that they write the best books. Like, that's just not the reality of the market, right? Like, they do something that connects with a lot of people, and I'm not going to take that away from any author. But the idea that, like, there are 5 white dudes who just write better books than anyone else by a margin of tens of millions of copies sold is ludicrous. It really is.
Yes.
So
I've tried some of these books, and some of them I'm just like, it's a fantasy book.
I don't get it.
Where are the millions of dollars worth of content here? And
that's the thing. It's like I was in a Slack with my agents, other clients, and we were all talking about that. And you end up trying to nail down like, well, what's so good about And the thing is, I keep bringing up Brandon Sanderson, the Kickstarter. It's really not about Sanderson. It's just like what Sanderson represents, and I want to make that very clear. It's not me knocking Sanderson, because I don't know the dude, and I don't know his stuff that well. But like you never really try to nail down, okay, well, what does this author do that is so much better than like all the other authors? And everybody's rattling off the things they think he does well. And like, that's all well and good, but it just gets to a point where it's like, well, if I do all of those things, I'm not going to sell 40 million copies of my book. Like, It's not a formula. It's like, you think you can come up with a writing formula, and you can't, because there's nothing to do with anything. But that's just, it's where you end up going, because it's such a huge disparity that you're trying to find the magic code, when really I think personally it comes down to allocation of publisher resources at the end of the day more than anything else. Like, that's where I get to. So. Yeah. All right, Mer, I'm very, very sorry. I know this has felt very brief to everybody, but I have to run because of the realities of being a ditch digger. So it is thematically consistent with the show. I have to go because I'm being called upon to do my writing, one of my many writing jobs.
All right.
But we will talk more about this when next we stream.
Yes, you and I will stream together again on the first Monday in May.
Yes, and we'll talk more about this and many other exciting things, so don't miss that. And enjoy Mer's fabulous guest host in the meantime, because her lineup of guest hosts is just stellar. Yes,
that is true. So if you want to find out more about either of us, we'll be at Merverse.com. Just check out this website, that site, and you'll find this episode, and you can find the other stuff. So thank you, everybody, for being in the chat. Thank you, Cypher of Tyr, for the resub. Really appreciate that. And I'll see you next week with another episode of Ditch Diggers. It'll be 4:30 p.m. on Monday, because Cameron Hurley is guest hosting. So
fantastic. You can't do better than Hurley. I mean, come on.
Not really. Except for, our other guest hosts and you, because I'm not putting anybody down, man.
Okay, you can't do better. You can do as good as Hurley if you're me or the other guest host. So we'll say that. Okay. Everybody's equally awesome. There we go.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks, folks. Thank you, Mer.
You can support us at patreon.com/mightymur.
Ditch Diggers!
Theme song by Devo Spice. DevoSpice.com.